More than 4 years have passed since starting the Community Assembly of the British Isles. And we have travelled a long way and overcome many obstacles to get to this point. Setting up a parallel community from scratch is not something that can be completed overnight. There are no quick solutions, no shortcuts, and no promise of easy reward. We are free people and should stand in our sovereignty. It is not a gift, it is our birthright. Are you prepared to give your all for humanity and help us establish a new reality for our children, grandchildren, and future generations? Take a step forward and join with us and stand in your freedom. The Community Assembly of the British Isles and the assemblies of the world are the way forward. We are the unity in the community. Find out more and get involved at www.cabrishisisles.com. Find us on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Telegram. Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. We're now taking our second attempt at recording this podcast because the last time we ended up with just audio, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. So today I am joined with Sandra Murphy from Equidiet Limited.uk. Yeah?
No,
No.
Equidiet UK Limited.
There you go, that one.
That's the one.
And Sandra's been working really hard in the welfare of horses and the prevention rather than cure, because a lot of horses go down and suffer with all these kind of illnesses. Well, Sandra has the solution for this, and it doesn't just stop with horses, it can be transferred to dogs as well. So any dog owners, horse owners, you'll enjoy this podcast. And so yeah, let's get on with it. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Oh, hello, Chris. Nice to be here, and thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So
I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a hoarse voice. Excuse the pun.
No worries.
Because I've had bronchitis for the last few weeks, so I do apologise if I sound a bit husky.
No worries. Have you taken any of your own?
No, but I have been taking natural remedies, as you do, honey and lemon and ginger and all the good things.
No, that's brilliant. Well, I wish you a speedy recovery there anyway.
Thank you.
So, how did you get into all of this?
So I've been in horses for nearly 55 years now, since I was a little whippersnapper. They got under my skin and they've never left me. And so I've been competing and riding. I was the first black girl to ever ride for the Royal Air Force, and I did that for 10 years. And also I've rode British show jumping, British eventing, and British dressage since I was, quite young as well.
That's impressive. So what was it like to be the first black lady to ride for the elites?
Well, it was okay. I was at RAF Cranwell at the time, and I was able to take my own horse to the camp when I was an LAC. And it was I get a few people go, oh, who did you borrow your horse from, and stuff like that. So it was some. It could have been, it was quite tough, some of it, but ultimately it was really good because I was good at what I did, and we went out and we won quite a lot. And also when I was posted down to RAF Northolt in London, I started up the RAF Saddle Club down there on the A40. So horses have been a real important factor in my life all the way through.
No, that's really good. So at what point did you realise that there was an issue with the welfare of horses?
Yeah, so one day I was out, let's say, going cross country rather fast with a load of hounds. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to get any backlash, but I was out there for the first time. I've never been out there before on the field, and we were out for quite some time, 4 or 5 hours, and me and my horse were at the front chomping at the bit all the way. And then I realized after about 4 or 5 hours, hang on a minute, I need to go home. And my boy hadn't drunk anything or hadn't eaten anything since his breakfast in the morning. And when I asked how far it was 12 miles back. So we'd been out there on the field all day, and then we had to ride back. And by the time I got him back to the camp at RF Cranwell, he was on his knees. He literally was so dehydrated. Um, and so by the time I got the vet out, when I called the vet out, he was about 4 hours, and he came and he had to put a nasal gastric tube up his nose to get fluid into him because he couldn't eat anything or drink anything. Um, and he burst all the blood vessels in his nose, and there was blood everywhere. And I thought I'd killed him. It was horrendous. And I just thought, my gosh, there must be a way of getting fluid into a horse. But as you've just said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, which is an 800-year-old saying. And so I ran out and I was getting grass, and I was liquidizing grass and putting in a drink bottle and trying to squeeze it into his mouth and trying to get him to drink something, because like I said, his mouth was so sore he couldn't eat. So
So do horses get their liquid from grass then?
yes, yeah, they can get
Okay.
up to 80% fluid from grass. Yeah, so obviously if you think about it, if they eat 10 kilos of grass a day, that's 8 liters of water.
Well,
You
that'll
know,
explain why Snoop Dogg's always hydrated then.
yeah, not
Sorry.
that type of grass, Chris.
No, no.
So yeah, so that's when I found the need for it back then. It was 35 years ago, that I found that there was a need for that. And so when I got to the point where lots of things happened and I ended up going to university, I then started to study equine nutrition and realized that I could maybe put together something that could have helped my horse back then. I mean, needless to say, he did survive, but it took him 3 weeks to get better after that one episode. So it was quite a devastating thing.
Took a lot out of him.
Yeah.
What was the name of your horse?
He was called Raja. That's what
Right,
his
okay.
name was. And he was a beautiful Cleveland Bay gelding. And he was a very, very good competitive horse. He used to show jump and cross country and everything. He was really good.
Nice. No, that sounds really nice. I
Mhm.
take it he's not with us anymore.
No, no, I don't think so. I think he's gone now. It's a while ago now. So he was sold on as a side saddle horse because he loved it. It was Jean Germany's sister or auntie or someone that bought him, quite a famous rider, and she bought him for a side saddle horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
So that's how I come up with the idea. Well, I came up with the understanding that there needs to be something. And so I was actually researching a human food bar at the time. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I had this and this, and if I put this with this, this might happen. So one morning, I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, I just jumped out of bed, ran downstairs, got my NutriBullet out, and I started whizzing down alfalfa pellets to make a meal. And I added it to water, but then it just sunk to the bottom, which it would do. And I don't know if you know about horses, but horses are fight or flight animals. So they have a physiology that shuts down when they go into this fight, flight, or flight mode. And so the things that get shut down are the thirst mechanism, digestive system, lots of things just get shut down, ready for them to run. Yeah. So one of the biggest problems that we've got with domesticated horses is that when they're under stress, they don't drink. So they don't take fluid in. And if they don't take fluid in, all the fibrous material that they eat gets stuck in their system. And that's called an impaction. An impaction can cause terrible condition called twisted gut, which is like, like your twisty balloons that you get that you
Mm-hmm.
make little animals out of. The gut then twists, and the section that's twisted will die. And that means that the vets have got to go in and cut that section out and rejoin it and all that sort of thing. And it's a terrible surgery.
Dogs
And
get that as well, don't
11%
they?
of horses that they can do, but not as bad as horses because they don't get that sort of internal blockage as such. But 11% of horses re-impact after they've had colic surgery.
Blimey.
So it's quite, and there's something like 54% of horses have colic episodes in this country.
It's quite high then.
Yeah, it's the biggest killer of horses in the world, actually, to be fair. I think it works out there's something like 86,000 horses in this country get colic, impaction
Blimey.
colic.
So how is business doing then? Are you plowing through? Are you
Well,
getting the clients?
the thing about colic, impaction colic, it's not just impaction colic that's a problem with horses nowadays. There's a couple of things that are causing an epidemic of conditions in horses. And it's in humans as well. Diabetes, for instance, in humans is epidemic in this country. But in horses, it's the same thing, but it's called equine metabolic syndrome. And it causes an issue called laminitis, which is where the horses, if you can imagine, that's the horse's hoof. Inside the hoof, there's a bone like that is actually suspended like on Velcro on the inside, like a Velcro. And that Velcro sort of gets inflamed and the bone drops away from the hoof wall and through the foot. And that's called founder. And so this detachment of that bone is incredibly painful. It is excruciatingly painful. And so this is happening more and more across the board. Yeah, with horses being fed the wrong type of food, like what we're eating the wrong foods. We're eating too much carbohydrates, too much sugar in our diet, which is causing diabetes.
Well, if you go back, if you think 90 years ago, most of what you see on the supermarket shelf didn't even exist then.
Exist? No, absolutely not. And grandma used to make all her food from raw materials. Yeah, it wasn't, already pre-packed and pre-made. Yeah, and this is the issues that we're having nowadays with horses and dogs. Yeah, where they're being fed this one size fits all food. Yeah, which is really made out of the wrong ingredients for horses. And they're using things like pro-inflammatory seed oils. Yeah, which we know as humans is really bad for us because they're all omega-6 based, which is pro-inflammatory, which causes inflammation. So these issues, with laminitis, this is causing this inflammation for the horses to founder, and things like that. There's a lot of things in equine feeds nowadays that horses shouldn't be eating.
As in
Yeah.
human-based product?
When you say human-based products,
Like stuff that you would expect to find in human food, are they mixing it with horse food to give it flavour?
No, not really, but they're using things like grain. Now, the thing is, grain has its uses. When we used to use horses to plough fields and to take the mail from Lincoln to York overnight, these horses used to have to work really hard. Yeah, so if you can imagine a shy horse having to plough a 5-acre field on a Monday, then get up on a Tuesday and do it again, then a Wednesday, etc., etc. You've got to replace the fuel in its muscles overnight, because if you don't replace the fuel, it can't get up and do the job the next day. Yeah, so that's when farmers used to feed grain to horses, because that was instantly causes glycogen to be produced into the muscles, ready to have those muscles work the next day. So that's what they used to do when horses were ploughing fields and doing that sort of hard work. Very, very few horses work that hard nowadays. Very few. Yeah. So this grain feed tradition is causing this massive epidemic of illness and sickness in horses. Most horses at work today, they're like avatars. They don't need to have that extra grain feed, yeah, to give them extra energy when they can get ample energy from the grass and the hay that they get fed. And a lot of people that argue with me and say, oh, the nutrition, there's not enough nutrients in the grass, there's not enough this, there's not enough that. There's plenty. We
That's
are
how God
just
designed it.
Exactly. We are just being duped to spend money to add all these additives and chemicals to these horses' diets that they don't need. And that's what's causing gas colics, and it's causing things like impactions and such on. So We're being duped that the industry is sort of jumping on this traditional way of feeding horses, which is causing this huge epidemic in sickness and illness.
No, it is very similar to the human, isn't it? With regards to what they're giving us and
Yeah,
selling it as compared to what it actually does, which
yes,
just creates more money in customers.
yes.
No,
Because
that is
there's
shocking.
no money. There's no money in healthy horses, just like there's no money in healthy humans. The more sick and chronically sick you can make somebody, the more money you can make on them over time.
Yeah, that's it.
But the problem is with our horses and our dogs, and I don't know much about cats, but all of a sudden, in the last 15, 20 years, we've got so much illness and sickness in these animals, but they can't talk. They can't say, oh, I hurt here, or oh, this hurts, or don't do that. They can't say that. So what it
They just get
manifests
grumpy.
is pain. Yes. Yeah. So all these all this bad behavior that you get from horses need not occur if their digestive system isn't put under so much stress, yeah, which causes them so much pain. Now, gastric ulcers are the worst thing. It's the highest claimed insurance claim in this country. Gastric ulcers. Now, gastric ulcers are incredibly painful, and they are caused by the erosion of the top part of the stomach, by the acid that is used to break down the grain that's put in the stomach. Yeah. So once the grain is put in the stomach, that stomach has to produce acid that splashes onto. Can you imagine having hydrochloric acid drip, drip, and drip, drip onto your skin?
Just eat away at
It
it.
would cause a lesion. Yeah. And that's what happens in the top part of, mainly the top part of the stomach. Yeah. And it causes these acid lesions, which every time the horse eats, the acid splashes into there and it causes horrendous pain. So the horse, quite rightly so, doesn't want to go forward or jump a jump or get a saddle strapped onto it. It will object to it, and it will show you that it's objecting. Now, if you keep ignoring that objection and you're not listening to what the horse is telling you, it gets worse and worse and worse. Till the horse says, get off, or stop, or do you know what I mean? So
I imagine, especially with the hoof um, trauma, I suppose the only thing you could liken it to in human form would be like a really severe, badly ingrowing toenail, like the pain.
slightly worse. If you can imagine, right, that you've ripped your nail off your index finger, completely ripped it off, down to
That'd
the
be fine.
bone, down to the bone, and you have to stand on your fingertips every day. Can you imagine that? Can you just imagine how that's why they have a typical stance in laminitis where they have to stand, they lean backwards on their hooves because they can't, the pain is so bad in their front feet. Now, this doesn't have to happen. If people were feeding their horses species specific feed and at the right amount, then we wouldn't have this massive epidemic of laminitis, which is just horrendous. Just like humans, if we weren't to eat so many carbohydrates, yeah, non-structural carbohydrates, pasta, rice,
Bread.
sugar, we would have very, very little type 2 diabetes.
So what is in your product then? What
So yes,
ingredients?
so basically, I've looked at it and I've back engineered grass. I've taken the internal contents of grass, yeah, and taken grass and other forages, and we've dried them. So we've taken out the water, and then we've got omega-3 oil, and in the Equigel, which is the normal leisure type feed for ordinary horses, yeah, the general feed. That one has got a very small amount of oatmeal, not oat feed, oatmeal, which is from you can make porridge oats with it. It's that good quality. Yeah, so it's got a little bit of that, only about 10%. So if you look at a field of grass, you'll only get about 10% of the seed tips of grasses, and that's where the non-structural carbohydrates are. in grass. So if you 10% of non-structural carbohydrates is about a normal amount. But if you can imagine most feeds, most bucket feeds, you've got a whole 2 or 3 kilos of grain, which would never occur in nature. Yeah. So we have grass, we have forages, dried forage, we have omega-3 and oil, omega-3 oil, and in the Equigel it's oatmeal, but in the hydrate, which is an equine smoothie, is grass and omega-3. So we don't have any chemicals, we don't have any additives. We don't believe in putting anything that Mother Nature didn't put in a horse feed.
So what's the difference between I can't even say it now, omega-3 and omega-6? Is it just that one is more provides inflammation where the other one doesn't?
No, yeah, basically omega-6 oil is pro-inflammatory. It causes inflammation or perpetuates inflammation. So things like vasoconstriction, so it constricts the veins. Yeah. And if you constrict the veins, it means that blood flow doesn't come through. So if you've got an injury, it takes longer for the injury to heal. Yeah. Whereas omega-6 oils, omega-3 oils, which is Mother Nature's healing oil, which is in all forages, okay, omega-6 is high in grain, whereas omega-3 is high in forages. Omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, which is vasodilating. So it allows the veins to open so blood flow can go through and it can heal the injuries.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the small, one of the differences. There's other differences, but yeah, we herbivores should be high in omega-3 oils, and we should be high in omega-3 as well.
Okay.
But
Is
we
that
get
what
ours from
is that
fish
what I
oil.
was going to say? Is that fish oil, like cod
Yeah.
oil?
Yeah, we ideally, because we're omnivores, we get our omega-3 mainly from fish oils and some from some meats and things, but not not so much from forage because we don't eat fiber. Like maybe prehistoric man ate more fiber than we did, but in nowadays we're not going to get enough from fiber because we don't digest fiber very well.
Okay. And I believe your products are out in all the vets shops, but it just isn't promoted as it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, well, Equigel is really good because for vets, I mean, vets only get 5 weeks of nutrition training. They don't get huge amounts of training. So they don't really understand what we do. And when they do, they're like, wow, this is brilliant. And they use it, they're like, they use it for most things. But with like, for instance, for impaction colic, you can't impact on a liquid. It's impossible. So with Equigel, you can use it voluntarily. So if your horse hasn't had enough fluid, you can give it to it voluntarily, or in a vet situation, a vet can use it via nasal gastric tube. So do you remember what I said about when I nearly killed my horse years ago? If the vet had got Equigel back then, he would have been able to put Equigel straight into his stomach via a nasal gastric tube, and he would have recovered a lot quicker. And they use it a lot for post-colic surgery. So if you can imagine your horse is going in for surgery, you don't want to be giving it hay because they stop it eating, but you can give it a liquid fiber feed because it has there's no way it can impact.
Okay.
So yeah, it's being used in most of the vet hospitals in the UK. You'll find it in their pharmacies, so they do use it to help horses within the pharmacies to take in hydration. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, at least it's being used,
Mm.
so that's good.
It,
Go
it
on.
is being used. The problem is, though, Chris, is the fact that it is so good that it disrupts the market. This feed is so good that people don't really want to see it where it goes because it will take away from, they think it will take away from what they do. But it's so sad because I'm here to make horses healthy, but a lot of the things that are out there are actually causing issues. So, I've got to try and get it out where it needs to be when it's being suppressed quite a lot by the industry.
Is it the same product that you would use for a dog?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
the one I do for dogs is called hydrocane, and it's a liquid. It's a liquid. It's made of chicken liver. chicken liver powder. So it's nothing to do with Equigel. It just has the same water carrying ability, but it's not
Okay.
fiber. It's used protein.
And that also helps to ward off any kind of illness in a dog.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I can't say that it wards off illness, but what it does do is it increases hydration.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So you can take your dog and you can give your dog a drink, even if it doesn't want to drink, it will take it because it's palatable. And that's the whole method behind Equigel as well. The fight or flight mechanism stops horses drinking, but they'll always graze, right? So, because you remember what I said about the 80% water, they'll always graze. So if you can make their food into a liquid, a horse will always take it up because it's palatable. So you don't need to use salt to, like electrolytes to shrink every cell in the body to make the horse force the horse to find water. You're just saying, here's a delicious fit meal. And they go, oh, I like that. And they drink it up. So we can get a horse to drink a whole 10 liters of fluid in 30 seconds.
Blimey. I knew a bloke down the pub like that once.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as impressive, but yeah. Just going off course slightly,
Yeah.
with all this manipulated weather that we're having this summer, an absolutely god-awful summer,
Yeah.
do you see things like hay shortages?
Well, yeah, there is an issue. There's a massive issue because they weren't able to get, well, not so much hay shortages, but crop, because they weren't able to get the crop in the ground earlier in the year where it was so wet. And they've struggled to actually grow this year because there's been a really poor summer so far. Hay shortages, I'm not sure how many cuts that they've had this year, but I know we've had a cut. But if they cut hay and they can't dry it and it
Just
gets
goes
damp,
mouldy.
it goes moldy and it then creates mycotoxins that are really bad for horses and other animals. So I'm not quite sure how many cuts they've got this year.
Perhaps we'll notice it more next year when this
Next
year's
year.
supplies have all run dry, much like normal fruit and veg.
Yeah, yeah, it is going to be quite a scary time coming shortly. And I think people don't realize as well, their animal feeds are going up and up and up and up massively. The price of corn and grain is going through the roof. Whereas what we do, because we work with forage, I mean, you can feed a horse our feed for less than £1.50 a day. And that's a 500 kilogram horse. 300 grams of Equigel per day plus 3 liters of water and their normal hay ration or grass ration. That's all you need to feed them. It saves a fortune.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly seems to make sense.
Yeah, and the good thing about what we do is I've got feeds that go right across the spectrum. So from horses that don't need a lot of energy, we have Lamigel, which is based on oat straw, very finely ground oat straw. And so it gives the horse the fiber it needs, but it doesn't have the calories of Equigel. And then your Equigel is your normal feed for your day-to-day horse, up to 100k a day. And then I've got another feed called Enduragel, which is the highest level of digestible energy in any feed on the market, and it is fiber based. So we're not dealing with the traditional feeds that are wrecking and eroding the horse's stomach. We're working with the hindgut, and we work in synergy with the digestive system.
Sounds all very interesting to somebody who knows nothing about horses. But no, it does sound very interesting. So did you have to do I don't know, did you have to do scientific studies to over a course of whatever period to see,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is really working?
Yeah, no. Well, I obviously have the knowledge myself, and I've done a bachelor's degree, and I'm doing my master's with Glasgow University at the moment on animal nutrition. But yeah, we've had studies. We've just got one that's been carried out in Wales as we speak, and we've had studies come across from Belgium. But in the UK, they're very reluctant to do the studies over here because they want a lot of money thrown at them. And a lot of them universities are sponsored by the feed companies. Again, they don't want
It's a bit like, oh, it's a little bit like Billy Gates sponsoring all the yeah.
Mhm. So we've got a bit of vested interest going on there and stuff like that. But like, what is good, and it will come through because we're doing the right thing and we're feeding horses correctly for healthy horses.
No, that's brilliant. I would like to see this in action. Now you have got some footage on your website, I believe, of the horses drinking this that
On
people
our
can go
Facebook
and.
page, or you can just click on a hashtag equine nutritional hydrotherapy. If you see that hashtag, and it will show you all of the horses that use Equigel. A lot of them, a lot of videos and all sorts of things. Or yeah, you can go on the website. I don't know if we've got videos on the website at the moment. That's a feature that we're going to be putting on the front page of the website. But if you want to know a bit more about it, you can go to the website and find out a bit more about the products, because this is the way forward. We need healthy animals. And this is not just horses. This is our feeds are, I'm developing one for cattle at the moment. And it's a novel source of protein. And also it reduces methane production. So, it ticks the
Free
boxes.
energy.
Free energy. Well, yeah, I think people think cows fart, but they don't fart, they burp. Yeah. And it's that burping that they're moaning about the methane production, but this reduces that methane production. So, it's a really good way of keeping our animals going in a healthy way.
Well, you've sold me. I just need to go out and buy a horse now.
No, don't go and do that. Whatever you do, it costs you a fortune.
Yeah, I can imagine it would. See, I do like horses. They do scare me a little bit. I've never had a bad encounter with a horse, but they are known for kicking you in the nuts from time to
Um,
time.
Only if you get bad ones.
Yeah,
If you've got horses that don't have any pain, they are the most loving animals that you'd ever want to meet. I've got a therapy horse that is just amazing. She will stand with loads of kids running around her legs, and she's worked with people that have got mental illness and everything. They are so sweet. And I've got the world's first Equigel stallion. He's a 10-year-old, and he has never had pain in his life, and he is the nicest person you'd ever want to meet. So, I think they've had a bad rep because they've been given the wrong feeds that make them off their heads. If you can imagine, Chris, giving a 3-year-old 3 candy flosses every day, you're going to have a nutter on your hands, aren't you?
with bad
Just,
teeth.
yeah, nuts with no teeth. Yeah, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. If you give a 3-year-old a can of Coke, you might as well strap the kid in because it's going to take off, you know. And this is the same with horses, exactly the same. So if you don't give them that, if you give them something that's healthy, they're not going to have that bad behavior. So you think how many horses we've lost, the wastage of horses that through pure bad behavior, but not for their own fault from
No.
what they've been eating.
Neglect.
Well, people think that they're
Not
doing the right thing.
necessarily conscious neglect,
No,
but neglect.
no, people think that they're doing the right thing. Yeah, but I would always stress to people who have bought horses or to look at the labels, to read their labels of what they're feeding their animals. Because a lot of people don't bother look at the labels and wonder why they've got issues with their horses. You know, well, my horses, I've had horses for years, and I don't see a vet. My horses only see a vet when they need their flu and tet jabs. That's it. Very rarely do we have a vet anywhere near because we don't have issues.
That's good. And what's the name of your website again?
So www.equidiet.org.uk.
Brilliant.
That's for the website, or you can go on. You can find us on LinkedIn or Facebook. For anyone that wants to have a nosy around and look and see what's what and chat to people, they can join. We've got a group called the Equijelly and Lamijelly group, and they are there, the supporters group, and they're there to support, what we do. So we just need to get it out there more, Chris. The thing is, people are being duped by the feed companies to feed these things to their horses. They don't need them, cost so much money, and they're causing so many issues when Mother Nature already designed the food that these animals should eat. And it's there. It's been out there for 10 years. And a lot of these feed companies need to study their social license to operate. Because if they're saying that they keep feeding these horses these things and having these issues continuously, when there's been something out there that doesn't do that, they need to be examining their social license to operate, because we don't have that issue. We've got a clean license.
Brilliant. Well, there you go, people. If this has struck a chord with you, if you've got a dog or a horse, then please do check out the links in the video description, which I will put up with this video. And I wish you all the very best, Sandra. I hope your business continues to grow in the right motion. And yeah, all the very best.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. And sorry about my croaky voice.
No worries.
Okay.
It's fine. You sound fine, to be fair. But no, brilliant. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Check it out. Thank you, Sandra, for coming on and explaining what it is that you do and why you're doing it. Very much appreciated. But for everybody else watching, look after yourselves, take care, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.